Hi, kids. Welcome back to Bible College. We're going to go back and pick up in Joseph's journey through his life. And this is just a second part, but I want you to know the whole story about Joseph. We had to take a couple of weeks off that couldn't be helped, but today it's in the the Old Testament, in the first book, Genesis chapter 39. Remember, Joseph had been in the pit. His brother sold him, and now we're going to get on with it. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites. Remember, the Ishmaelites was coming with the camels and their spices, so they bought him, and then he was bought again, which had brought him down hither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hands. So Joseph was over everything almost. We're going to find out what he isn't over in a little bit. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had save the bread which he did eat. So in other words, he didn't know how much money he had, how many crops he had, none of that. When he sat down at the table to eat, he knew he had food. And Joseph was over the rest of it. Anyway, Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused. And he said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house. In other words, he trusts me with everything, but he doesn't know what I'm doing. And he hath committed all that he hath to my hands. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee. He knew it was wrong. Because thou art his wife. He's trying to talk some sense into this woman. How then can I do this great wickedness? And I want to point out right here, he's not worried about to his boss. And sin against God. He would have been sinning against the man too by taking his wife. And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, somebody that's wanting to do wickedness or wanting you to do wickedness, they wouldn't just ask you one time. They'll just keep on and try to wear you down. But it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie with her or to be with her. She's married, but she's wanting him for like a boyfriend, kids. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business. And there was none of the men of the house there within. So there was nobody there this day except his wife, Pharaoh's wife. And Joseph went in there to do his business. So here we go. Let me say this before I go on. Kids, don't ever get in a position where it's one person doing wickedness and you might be with them, because people might say it was you and not them. So try not to let yourself get into that situation. But she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house. I guess they came back in by then. and spake unto them. And here's what she said, kids. See, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. She's a liar. She's a sneak and she's a liar. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, which he did not, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. So she put it up after she thought through it and started squealing and got the men's attention. She told them the story, and then she thought, I'll keep this and I'll show my husband. So she laid up that garment by her until his Lord came home, and she spake unto him according to these words, saying, she's going to tell the same story to him. The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. Of course, if somebody told you that, you're going to be burning mad. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners was bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all that the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatever they did there, he was the doer of it. In other words, the prison guard just let him go and gave him to Joseph to take care of. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. We're going to go over these questions today, and Miss Nancy might review some of the first lesson through Joseph's life. Where did they take Joseph in the beginning of this story? Down to Egypt. And who bought Joseph there? Potiphar. And who was he? He was an officer in Pharaoh's army. Who did Potiphar buy? Joseph. And from who? The Ishmaelites. Remember, the camels were coming, so they bought him from them. Who was with Joseph the whole time? The Lord was. And what was Joseph's financial situation? Everything he did prospered and did well. And what could his master see about Joseph? He could see that the Lord blessed everything he done, and everything he did prosper. So what did the Egyptian make Joseph overseer of? Everything in his whole house and in his field. What was he not over? Who or what was he not over? His wife, was he? What did the Lord do for the Egyptian because of Joseph? He blessed everything about him, his field, his house, and all. What two things are we told about Joseph? That he was a goodly person and well favored. But what happened one day to mess all this up? His master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph. It was never the same after that. What did she want from him? For him to lie with her or to be with her. Did Joseph agree? No. What did he tell her? He said, the master has put me over everything. It's all in my hands. Everything in his house. He don't even know anything that I have except for the food that he sits down to. But he did say, but you're the only thing that I can't be around. Anyway, what two reasons did he give for not doing this? He said, you're the master's wife. And the second one, how can I do that great wickedness against God? So, one day when Joseph went into the house to do his business, what was the situation then? Nobody was there but her. Nobody. And what did she do? She caught him by the garment, didn't she? And what did he do? He took off. And what did he leave? He left his garment in her hand. So she got to thinking, and she realized, his garment's with me. So she came up with a plan. What did she decide to do? She called for the men of the house, and she told them what? That Hebrew servant that he'd brought in came in to mock him, and that he had attacked her. And then what did she say she done? She said, I cried loud. And then what did she tell him Joseph did? She told him what he did. He got out of there. She just said, after I screamed, then he ran. And then, what did she do with Joseph's garment? She laid it up and waited for the master to get home, and then told him the whole story, didn't she? But when her husband got home, and she told him that story, how did that make him feel? He was full of wrath. I guess it's a good thing that he put Joseph in prison instead of killing him. But anyway, where did he put Joseph? I'll let that cat out of the bag. He cast him into prison, where all the king's prisoners were. And what does it say about him? That he was bound in the prison. Who was with Joseph in the prison? The Lord himself, wasn't he? Now, remember the first part of Joseph's life? I want to remind you about that because it's been a few weeks. What caused his brothers to despise Joseph? He told them he had a dream, didn't he? And what did his dream say? He said, I saw you guys bowing down to me. He actually said he saw a sheaf of corn. It was his, and that their sheaves bowed down to his sheaf. And then he dreamed another dream, and what was it? He said there was 11 stars and the moon and the sun that bowed down to me. Boy, that made him even madder. And the dad, Jacob or Israel, he reprimanded him. But he listened and he thought on these things. But why did they despise Joseph anyway? Because his dad loved him more than anybody of the kids. So, what did they decide to do? One day he went looking for him, and when they saw him coming from afar off, what did they do? They plotted against him. They said, here comes that dreamer. Let's kill him. His own brothers, right? So, they didn't kill him to start with. What did they do with him? They threw him down in the pit, didn't they? And what did they do? They sat down to eat after that. So who come up with a plan to rescue him? Reuben, his oldest brother. He said, let's leave him down there. And, he thought, well, I'll go away and then we'll come back after a while and get him out. But when he got back, what had happened? Judah, another brother, said, oh, here comes the Ishmaelites. This is their brother. We shouldn't kill him. What did he decide to do? To sell him, didn't he? And so they did. But when Reuben come back to the pit, Joseph wasn't there, and what did he say? It wasn't that he was sorry Joseph wasn't there. He ripped his clothes, and he goes, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Me, I. That's the way it was. But anyway, then what was the next conspiracy they came up with? They said, let's take this coat, because they took it off of him before they cast him in the pit. And they had to kill a lamb or a baby sheep or a baby ram. They had to kill something, and they dipped that coat of many colors, which Joseph had made him because he loved him so much, into the blood and took it back to the dad. And they said, is this your son's coat or not? Of course it was, and he knew it, and they knew it. And he said, some evil beast has devoured him. That's what he thought. But that's not the end of the story, guys. And I know I've been a little bit scattered because it's been a little while. But next time, we'll go on to part 3 of the journey of Joseph's life. Thank you.